I can't eat anything from a mammal. The gal syndrome from a tick bite. We kind of started as a homestead first. It started selling when we had extra things. We also have a small CSA.
Okay.
And so this will be enough to supply us and our winter CSA. Always it was about building community. And it helps build those local food economy. You know, life is always going to throw you curveballs. Yeah. So we just moved it.
Oh, where was it before?
It was down in the main garden,
Okay.
But a friend of mine is helping us to kind of transition that garden. Maybe I'll explain that when we get there, but it required us moving this.
Okay.
And so this is where we're going to do all our winter growing this year. The chickens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we can't, the chickens are always out, so we have everything barricaded. Because you'll see some empty spots in here, and that is from the chickens.
Oh no.
But come on in. So these are our winter greens, and we will these we will be harvesting all the way through April.
Okay.
So
wow.
And we will add a couple more things, but for the most part, these are things that we can plant and then pick all winter long.
Wow.
But so moving it gave us a great chance to kind of reevaluate what we wanted to do with the space, how we wanted to make it better.
In here? Okay.
And so we did not have the permanent beds before, and
or the walkways.
Or the
I
walkways. No, and we were constantly weeding the walkways, and that was something we didn't want to spend our time on. We wanted to spend our time on growing and harvesting.
Absolutely.
So we knew we were putting down the landscape fabric, but then we've been sourcing free cycle bricks. So I'm sure it's going to look interesting because there'll be a hodgepodge of different kinds.
That's really cool. Yeah, like you've got squares here,
Mm-hmm.
and then like traditional rectangles, some pavers. Really cool. I bet that'll be really beautiful.
It's going to be nice. Yeah, it'll be nice because it'll look nice, but then also they act as a heat sink in the winter too.
Yeah.
So they have multi-functions, along, keeping the weeds down. And
yeah. What a great way to utilize like natural resources to keep things warm in here. So what do you have? So you said you have salad greens.
Yeah. If we start, and I just watered because, like I said, I can't open the sides because of the chickens, so it gets a little warm, but I just watered. We've got arugula, and then there's an Asian greens mix, Tokyo Bencana, and the first seeding of the winter kale did not take. It's like a Russian red. But so it's just starting, it's right on the edge here. And then we've got bull's blood beets, cilantro, Swiss chard. Down the middle here, where there's a blank, I was going to put the kale, but since the chickens got into the lettuce and spinach, I'm going to replant some lettuce and spinach in the middle. There's mizuna, there is mosh and vit, and then I put the kale in between there. Okay. And then half a bed of spinach, half a bed of lettuce with radishes on the outside.
Okay. So a lot.
Yes.
You have a lot in here.
We do. We grow for ourselves, but we also have a small CSA. Okay. And so this will be enough. In the winter, we don't sell as much, and so this will be enough to supply us and our winter CSA.
So you do a CSA in the winter?
All year round.
That's unique. So most people don't do a CSA in the winter because they can't sustain that. So you probably have a lot of demand for that because they get fresh local greens all year round.
Yeah, and it helps us because the goal was always to be able to have the farm sustain us year round. Not only like with food, but also as our income. Yeah. And so we guarantee with our CSA at least 40 weeks a year of orders. It's a buyer's choice. Pay in, and you can choose up to $600 as your starting amount. You get an order form at least 40 weeks a year. Okay. And it's up to you how you spend that money. Okay. So we have people that will every couple months put another $200 on. And then we have people who it's almost the end of the year and they're still at 120 out of their $200. Okay. But it fits everyone, no matter what they want. Yeah, we've really modified it over time because we started with the boxes, the traditional CSA boxes, and there was every week. It's can I switch this? Can I not have that? I really hate this, and it wasn't growing. We had a certain number. And some would drop out and some would join, but it never grew beyond that kind of number that we had. And by giving the customers more control, then it fits the needs of more people. And we still will offer a surprise box, like a farmer's choice box. Okay. So if you like that surprise, you can just check that off and we will give you the best of what we have that week, and it's a surprise.
Yeah.
Or you can choose each week what you want to get.
Okay.
So
really cool.
it's worked really
Yeah,
well
I
for the
love that.
customers. And we just grow a variety of things. And if we have a lot of something, you can order, you know, maybe up to 5 of it. If we only have a little bit of something, we only allow you to order 1.
Okay,
and
so it gives you more control. It probably helps with planting and giving you more control over what you plant, how much you need to plant. Maybe you don't, maybe one year people don't want arugula, so maybe you don't plant as much. It kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility in that too.
And you kind of learn over time,
Okay.
you know, how much of this generally sells a week.
Yeah.
And then you go from there.
Cool. And I'm sure you have your repeat customers.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
have people that have been with us for years and years and years.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Very cool. Well, what's next?
Next to it here is just our little greenhouse.
Okay.
And this is where we start all our seeds. For a long time, I worked in a school, and they had a great FFA program, and they were very generous. They let me have a little corner of the greenhouse, and I was able to start things.
That's really cool.
But then when I was, you know, when I was no longer there, I needed a place to start seeds. So we will start in like January, February indoors, but then they move out here. And it's just a cattle panel.
Yes.
It's 8 by 12. It's just framed with 2x4s on the bottom, and then the cattle panels. And it was really easy to put together. My dad helped us figure it all out, and we can fit a whole lot of plants in here.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. Yeah. I mean, you can go vertical. I mean, you've got stuff hanging already.
I have supplies on those shelves, but they will have plants on them in the spring, and then we'll have plants up here. And then as they are ready to harden off, they can move out, and then more things go in.
Yeah.
So
really cool. And I like how you've got pea gravel down too. That probably helps with drainage, but also with some heat.
With the heat sink, and then these are full of water, which in theory are a heat sink as well. The first year we did straw bales on the north, on this side, these two sides, to help because all of the wind comes up from that direction. But we didn't really see a benefit with that.
Okay.
But we have the little space heater, and so this, and then occasionally we'll put the agricultural fleece if it's a really cold night, or you know, if it's really an unexpected chill, like we'll take all the tomatoes inside.
Gotcha. So do you use this in the winter time, or is this just
I haven't been.
Okay.
Usually it's not till the seedlings are ready to come out. So it's late February, March when we start filling this up. But I've thought about this year possibly doing more. So if that gets filled up, we'll see.
Yeah.
But it's kind of flexible right now.
Okay. Very cool.
The other thing in here is all the tulips, which will get planted this week. But we'll plant 2,500 tulips. And tulip bouquets are a really big part of what we do in the early spring. So
okay, so you have a lot of flower sales.
That's our main,
just the tulip bouquets.
That I've been trying flowers, and some years they go better than others. They're not my main focus. Maybe next year we'll have a lot more flowers. We talk about it every year because they do well when I have them. But veggies are my first thing. And then this is the orchard. So some of the trees are around 7 to 10 years old. Some are brand new, starting to bear fruit, so that's nice. Some of them we're still trying to, like, I knew nothing about pruning. I probably should have done a lot more research before we started. But we're doing more of a back to Eden style now with the wood chips, and I'm hoping eventually the whole orchard will be under wood chips. And I've been doing better with trying to prune to get them into a better shape. So it has been a learning adventure. And then some things, you know, don't do well. I've tried so many times to grow apricots. So,
those don't work.
And I've been through three tries already. I don't think I'm done trying though.
Okay.
Where I grew up, there were plum trees and apricot trees and all these different things, and the kids could just go around the neighborhood and pick whatever they wanted. And that's just one of my, like, really great, I guess, core memories. And so I'm always trying to reinvent that.
Yeah. Well, we always want to get back to our childhood, right?
I'm not from Indiana.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southern California, and then we moved to Colorado and then Indiana. Though my father grew up here. He grew up in Indiana. So we do have roots here. But after we moved here, I was going through paperwork and boxes and trying to sort things out, and I found an essay I had written in 5th grade. And the topic was, where would you be in 20 years or 30 years or something like that. And I had written I would be living on a farm with at least 5 acres and a pond, and I had a list of all the animals that I wanted to have. And I listed Indiana as one of the couple places that it might be.
Okay.
And so when I found that and I read it, it was like coming home and not even knowing it. So I remembered it. It all came flooding back. But, the reason we left California was because we would never be able to afford a house with a yard.
Yeah.
And we lived in an apartment, and I had plants all over my balcony, but I wanted more.
Yeah.
So that was part of the dream and why we left. We wanted, this is a great place to raise kids.
It is. It's so nice here. Yeah.
So that was really fun. And really, it's been something that's been part of me since I can remember. My grandfather used to come to visit us in California in January and February, and that's when you plant a garden there. And I would beg him to help me plant a garden. So when I was 4, that was the first time that he helped me go pick out the seeds and dig the ground and plant a garden. And I've been planting one ever since, and in some form or another I've always been growing something. There was always subsistence farming that happened, especially on my dad's side of the family.
Okay.
That was part of what they did. But my parents' generation, they weren't growing a garden for food anymore.
Right.
And so I'm really, really thankful to have my grandfather, who showed me how to do things. Like, one of the most treasured gifts I have from him is when he could no longer garden anymore, he gave me his copy of Rodale's Guide to Organic Gardening, and it's like an early 80s edition. And I still have it to this day, and I still reference it to this day. So that was foundational in what I do and how I do what I do. So it was always organic gardening from the beginning, and I didn't know anything different. I just, that was just
gardening.
Yeah.
It was just it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you spoke about the animals that you had in your letter. Right now you only have chickens, but and if we can go see them, but you only have chickens because of market demand. You don't have chickens for yourself. Do you want to talk a little bit about why that is?
Well, actually, the chickens I do.
You can have eggs?
I can have, it's just mammals.
Okay, so
yes.
Tell us what's going on.
I have alpha-gal syndrome from a tick bite. Yes, and I think this is something that's important for anyone who's wanting to farm or is farming to just keep in the forefront of their minds that there are so many really nasty tick-borne illnesses. And so if you can avoid ticks at all costs, it is worthwhile. So alpha-gal syndrome means I can't eat anything from a mammal.
Wow.
So that impacts foods and medications and so many different
medications.
things.
We talked about that on the phone, that there are so many collagen things, casings that use animal
gelatin
products.
I mean, but there's whole industries that use like pork products in medication. Or bovine replacement parts, and so there's many medications that are animal derived.
How long have you been living with this?
This round since 2020.
This round?
There was several years ago, suddenly I was having problems when I ate certain foods, and I just kind of did an elimination diet and ate what I could. I'm pretty stubborn. I thought, well, people kept saying it was gallbladder, and actually a lot of people with AGS get misdiagnosed with gallbladder issues and have their gallbladder taken out when they don't need to.
Oh my.
But so I managed it with diet, but eventually it went away. But then I was bit again, and this time it was much more severe. I had anaphylactic reactions, and that's when we were able to pin down exactly what it was.
So it kind of went away, but did you know you got bit by a tick and then immediately, so like you knew bump it happened and that was it, or you just kind of put the clues together that like you had gotten bit by a tick and that had happened?
Yeah, because when I started getting hives after eating beef, when you look it up, when you Google it, that's what comes up, and when I started reading, it was like, that's it. It made perfect sense, and the reactions have become more severe. I did get bit again this year. I always wear the big boots outside, like I always have the boots on. But 4th of July I wore sandals, and it's always the little nymph ticks, and a lot of people don't know they've been bit because those nymphs are so small. They think it's just a mosquito bite. They like might scratch, and the nymph is gone, and they just think they have a mosquito bite. So
Wow.
it's definitely worth being careful about. And I've done a whole lot. I'm a research nut, so I did a lot of research about it, and part of it is our ecosystems being out of balance. The more invasive plants you have, the better habitat it is for ticks, and the unchecked deer populations.
Okay.
There's no predators for deer anymore.
Yeah.
We see, deer populations exploding everywhere,
Yeah.
and they help also spread them around. But it's also things like mice and little animals that spread them around too.
So you kind of diagnosed yourself, and then do you mind talking about like the emotions that came with that? Because for me, I'm basically a carnivore, and we drink raw milk, and we were making our own butter there for a while. I mean, to tell me that I couldn't have any mammal products, I would be absolutely devastated. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, it's really a process similar to grief. You go through the different stages. It's overwhelming, and there's a big loss, a big sadness, because it changes everything. Like the recipes I made that my grandma, I learned to make it because my grandma taught me.
Yeah.
I can't make it anymore. So it's relearning everything you eat. It's learning how you do things, but it can also be very isolating because eating at a restaurant, if you have cross-contamination, for some people it's deadly. Some people are fume reactive and they can't even go somewhere where you smell it. Some people can't have like a dog as a pet anymore because they're so reactive. I'm glad I didn't have that level, but at the same time, it's learning to accept a whole new reality. And food is so foundational to who we are and our culture, and just how we live our lives, and having to change all of that was a big gradual process. At the same time, cutting out dairy and red meats, and a lot of fast food is no longer an option.
Yeah.
So I'm healthier than I've ever been.
Yeah.
But there's just always that background. If you accidentally take something or eat something you're not supposed to, it can cost you dearly.
Because you're having anaphylactic reactions now. So that can be literally deadly.
The last 2 I had were silly mistakes. I had a splitting headache. I hardly ever get a headache. But the thing I usually take we were out of, and I grabbed a Tylenol without even thinking twice. And part of it was my head was just splitting, and I just was grabbing, going back to that routine that you normally do, but it had gelatin, a gel cap.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was really bad. And then the other time I grabbed dumplings from the freezer. I thought I had bought chicken dumplings, and they were pork. And so that was my most severe one yet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just those little mistakes, but a little mistake could mean somebody's life or mean my life. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is our main growing area, and the reason we changed it was because a friend of mine has a high tunnel he's not using, and it is almost the size of the whole entire garden. And we have found time and time again that what we grow in the tunnel grows so much better.
Okay.
I had planted in some raised beds, and I'll show them to you when we get back up.
Okay.
I had planted a lot of the things I have in the tunnel probably 6 to 8 weeks ago, and I've been just harvested them the last 2 weeks. The things in the tunnel I planted 4 weeks ago, and they are ready this week.
Wow.
So that's the kind of difference it makes, just being able to control the environment a little bit better.
Yep.
When you get the weird hard freeze in the middle of April, you're not starting over.
Yeah. Or the chickens.
Yeah. And you'll see the fence. So we have a lot of deer here.
Yeah.
And the chickens and groundhogs and rabbits. And so we had a few really big losses. We had deer come through and eat almost half our tulips one year.
No.
Even with a fence. So we went to the fortress.
They are not getting past
And
here.
we had a really lovely customer actually just say, "What's it going to take? Just let me know," and helped us with the fence. So It was such a blessing. We've had so many people along the way. Just yesterday, our neighbor said, I'm going to come down with the tractor. What do you need done? And we were able to move that pile of mulch over there, went all the way down to the end of the blueberries, so where the end of the red bushes are.
Okay.
That's how big that pile of mulch was. And yesterday we moved it all different places.
Wow.
So it's such a blessing. And I think that is, you had asked me to think about some of our focuses, and really building community has always been one of the main goals of what we do. We've had a farmer's market booth. We had a store for a while. Always it was about building community. And I think that pays off in the long run, because it makes something more than just selling lettuce.
Yeah.
It gives it a much bigger purpose.
Yeah.
So we're on a hill, so all the topsoil goes down. We have clay and stone, and that's the hard part of growing here, but it's what we have, and so we're trying to work with, work with this. It's a beautiful place. We just got to make it work. So we've been running the chickens, and this is so much more fertile than it was. It's like night and day. Grass would hardly grow, and now it's green and lush, and it makes a big difference. We've talked about, would we move into this area with growing, and it's a potential.
Maybe flip-flopping
in the future. We'll just have to see.
Yeah.
But anything has to be fenced.
Right.
We can't grow without the fencing here. Yeah. This area here, we have to be careful also, because the runoff comes through here. And so we actually built up the bed with blocks, and then did a complete back to Eden style bed where it's thick wood chips.
Yeah.
And the asparagus, we had some asparagus, and we added more this year. And I think next year, I'm on the outsides, I'm going to put asparagus, but we had a flower cutting garden here. But it wasn't fenced, so the deer kept.
Oh, those poor deer.
So that's why we hardly had any flowers this year. So, like I said, if we're going to plant it, it has to be fenced. And
wow. And what's crazy is, I mean, you've got big livestock fence here, and you have, I mean, we're in the hills, and it's kind of wooded here, but you have neighbors. So, and there's a highway in front of you. So to think that you have such a problem with deer right now is kind of mind-boggling, because I'm like, there's so much going on. Deer come around here?
If you look at the orchard, though, notice how all the leaves are about 6 feet off the ground.
They are.
And that's not just because it's fall. It's
these
because
are green
of the
leaves.
deer.
Look at that.
So they just come through and eat it. Like they love the apples in particular,
Right
that
there.
poor apple tree.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's very frustrating.
Like, yeah, it's picked completely clean.
Yeah. They love this apple tree more than anything. And
that's probably why they keep coming back.
I finally get it like pruned and starting to do good, and they just hit it so hard. And the apples grow on last year's growth, and so when they eat all the little branches down, it really impacts the harvest. So I think next year, maybe some of the chicken fencing we're not using will be going around the orchard.
Okay.
We have hot wires already down to the garden, so we're going to have to find a way to just pull off of that. And get it fenced, so we can actually get fruit.
Yeah, absolutely.
All this work, and we got to get some fruit eventually, not have it all go to them.
I mean, it's great that you're feeding the wildlife around here, but there's got to be some kind of point.
There's enough other food for them.
You guys started as a homestead, and then you were able to expand it into a farmstead. And has that been 2 years? Is that what you told me?
No, I started, the first lettuce I sold was in 2008.
2008.
And before that, we were giving a lot of things away.
Okay.
But we had a financial need, and there was a new farmer's market, and I thought, well, let's just try it and see how it goes.
And you're working on the farm full time now?
I am.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's been 2 years I've been doing it full
That's
time.
What
it is.
Yeah, 2 years that you've been here full time.
Yeah.
How have you managed that? As far as emotionally, physically?
And we're a family first. Mm-hmm. And so there are times where there's a little bit of tension between getting the home stuff done and getting the farm stuff done. But what needs to get done gets done. The most important things always get done. And so it's just finding that balance. If I had little still, when my kids were really little, I don't think I could have done it. That would have been too difficult. A balance. But the kids are grown now, and so it's much easier. I mentioned the deer eating like half of the tulips,
Yeah.
and that's a huge cash crop for us. And then we also had voles. We have a lot of moles, which
yeah.
the moles kind of like, till the soil. They're not we try to live with the moles, but the voles go into their tunnels and eat the crops. And so that was the problem. So we moved the tulips into these boxes.
Okay.
There's a local manufacturer. You can get these for $7 each. And then we got wood chips and compost from the county for free, and filled the boxes and did the tulips here, and it was fabulous. It worked really well. We were able to fence it off. So then after the tulips were done, we did potatoes here because, again, the voles.
Yeah.
And so we had our best potato crop ever this summer.
Wow.
And then once the potatoes were done, we did a quick greens crop, and so this will come out this week.
Okay.
Everything did really well, except for the radishes just didn't size up, and it could be that I planted them too closely together. There's just a few in here. We have some in a salad.
But you can use the greens for.
I'll give them
right?
to the chickens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So these will get cleared out this week, and then the tulips go in, and we have we make these strawberry towers out of planters.
Uh-huh.
And I kept all the soil from that, so there's little piles of soil here and there.
Oh, okay.
Will go on top of the tulips when we plant those. So everything is always being reused.
Yeah.
In whatever way we can do that. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool.
But so we're just fitting things in wherever we can, being as intensive as possible, and then by like really taking care of the soil, the plants grow really well,
Yeah.
and so we're able to get the most out of it. But even like the woods, like this year I went through and marked all of the maple trees. We're gonna try doing maple syrup.
Oh yeah, get a little sugar shack down here somewhere.
And then we're gonna hopefully add mushroom logs. So there's always something new on the list of things that we want to accomplish.
So coming from a carnivore, to be told, to be told that you can't have mammal protein or mammal products, so then your farm can't use, it wouldn't make sense for you to grow those things or raise those things. It's still, plant life is still very diverse. So there's still so many things that you could get into to kind of fill maybe that void in your heart that you can't have, pigs and beef and lambs.
We've always been able, the other thing, our logo from the start, Double Oak Farm, it was local, organic, and sustainable, because sustainable was before we really knew about regenerative farming. That was the word that kind of described what we were trying to do. But when we can't grow something ourselves, then we source it locally.
Okay.
And so we will offer watermelons and sweet corn and the big things that we don't really have a good space to grow.
Yeah.
We'll get it from a great local farm and offer it to our customers. And so we do even more than what we grow here.
What a great way to expand your CSA for your customers.
And it helps build those local food economies.
Yeah.
And a friend had lamb available recently, so we made sure just to post about it and let everyone know.
Absolutely.
So even if it's something we're not offering, it's still something that people know about.
It's connecting those community dots.
Absolutely.
Cool. But I'm really itching to ask, if you could talk to 5th grade Lori and tell her where you are, what would you say? And what do you think her response would be?
So I've thought about that. And, if I narrow it down to the farming part, when I went to college, I really wanted to go into agriculture. But when you're in Southern California,
there's wine.
There's golf courses. There's planting at Disney, which would have been fascinating. It would have been so much fun. But people really don't talk about that as, even here, it's hard, to convince people that that is a viable career path.
Right.
And so I even went to one of the few agricultural colleges in Southern California, and I still did not choose that as a major because I was so discouraged by the people around me. Like, that was not what are you going to do with that? But I think even though I've enjoyed the journey, I've enjoyed all the different things that I've done along the way, I think it would be to just say it's okay to follow what you want to do. Even if it seems like it's not the traditional thing, or even if it seems like it's maybe not the most profitable or it makes the most sense, do what you love. Life's too short. And I've tried to tell my girls that too. So, and I worked as a school counselor, and there were a lot of students that wanted to go into trades, and there was so much pushback from families and even from the community as a whole, saying that you have to go to college, you have to go to college. And so I really tried to advocate hard for people doing what they want to do, because there are great jobs and there are necessary jobs in all different fields. So yeah, follow your heart.
I love that. I love that message.
Sometimes it fades, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, life is always going to throw you curveballs.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something, and you just have to learn to kind of pivot and move forward. And sometimes you mourn that for a while.
Yeah.
But there's still so much wonderful, great things about our journey, and so you just have to find that no matter what life throws at you.
If anybody wants to know more about you and your journey and your farm here, also you have a YouTube channel.
We have a very baby YouTube channel.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it goes in fits and starts, because I'm a farmer first and a content creator second.
Right.
I know some people do that the other way around. But so I'm trying to do more on YouTube. We have a much more active TikTok channel, and we also have Instagram and Facebook.
Okay,
So,
we'll drop those links below in the description. But if somebody's in the area and they are they able to buy from you?
Yeah, we do have a website. It's
Okay.
doubleoakfarm.com, and we'll start selling for 2024 probably in December.
Okay.
And
In December of 2023, we're going to sell for 24.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and it'll be going soon, and it should be our best year yet. So
Sweet. All right, we'll put all those in the description below. Thank you again.
thank you.